Welcome into Brewers Daily, here for you every single day, covering our favorite team, the Milwaukee Brewers. I am Dave Gasper, and we got lots to get to on the show here today as this busy week in Major League Baseball continues. Still some more fallout from the qualifying offer decision from Brandon Woodruff yesterday. We got the non-tender deadline coming up here on Friday, so that's coming up fast. Decisions to make there. Could be a lot more free agents out there on the open market. We'll get into that. Plus, a free agent who just may fit for the Milwaukee Brewers, depending on what happens there at the non-tender deadline. But that's coming up here in the show today. But I want to start with ownership with the Milwaukee Brewers. Mark Attanasio, he talked to the media about the decision that came down that we've talked about in yesterday's show about Brandon Woodruff taking the qualifying offer for just over $22 million to return to the Milwaukee Brewers in 2026. And Mark Attanasio, he was asked by several media members, it feels like, about if this Woodruff decision is a prelude to Freddie Peralta perhaps getting traded later on this offseason. And Mark Attanasio said, whoa, slow down there. Those are independent decisions that Matt Arnold and his team are going to make. Just because Woodruff is back does not necessarily mean that Freddie Peralta is going to be gone. Now, he didn't rule out a Freddie Peralta trade. He did say that they feel very excited about where their rotation's at right now with the both of them. I think they're feeling pretty good still about the opportunity that Peralta is going to be there with the team next year. But still, as Arnold has talked about and Attanasio still kind of somewhat left the door open to, there is a possibility that Freddie Peralta still ends up getting traded this offseason. So Attanasio kind of does a little bit of a victory lap here, saying that, like, hey, look, we're very excited that Woodruff is back here. We're excited to have both of these guys in our rotation. But still, a lot of teams are interested in Freddie Peralta. And there's probably going to be someone who has the ability to make the Brewers an offer that will wow them, that will blow them away enough to pull the trigger on a deal. Whether they ultimately do offer it remains to be seen. Whether the Brewers do ultimately pull the trigger on a deal remains to be seen. But it's a little bit easier now to pull the trigger on that than it was before, now that Brandon Woodruff is officially back into the fold. But as some have pointed out as well on Brandon Woodruff, on Twitter, and you can follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. As someone pointed out, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from Brandon Woodruff, even though you're giving him $22 million. Can you get 100-plus innings out of him? Can you rely on him to be that workhorse for you that, frankly, Freddie Peralta has been the last couple of seasons? With Woodruff down, with Burns traded the past 2 years, it has been Freddie Peralta as the go-to workhorse ace for this team, and he has taken the ball every single time. He has had no major health concerns whatsoever. He has taken the ball every fifth day. He has been that guy. You know what he brings. He is reliable. He is durable, as much as it gets for starting pitchers in this day and age. So because you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from Woodruff, I think it does make a lot more sense to keep Freddie Peralta and have both of those guys leading your rotation heading into next season. But Mark Attanasio does a little bit of a victory lap here, saying we're excited to have both of these guys back. Maybe that's a little bit of pressure on Matt Arnold to keep him in-house, to keep Peralta around. But there is a potential domino that could fall with Brandon Woodruff back in the fold. Talked about it again a little bit yesterday, but now that Mark Attanasio has spoken on it, it adds kind of a little bit more context as to how the Brewers are actually feeling. Because the starting rotation, as Mark Attanasio pointed out, they feel very excited about this starting rotation, as they should, because it is an incredibly deep group that they have, especially now with Woodruff back in the fold. Because you look at this group, you have Freddie Peralta as the one, and Brandon Woodruff as the two. Because Woodruff is having a fully healthy, normal offseason. He's going to be ready to go in 2026, and you're expecting an even better version of him back next year. But you got Peralta and Woodruff as your 1-2 atop the starting rotation. And then after that, you're likely looking at Jacob Misiorowski and Quinn Priester taking up the 3-4 spots in that rotation. So that's already 80% of your rotation done, taken care of. You have it in place. It's exactly what you need. The final spot in that rotation, now this is a spot that could change throughout the year, but you have got an incredible group of options. You got 6 options, really, legitimately, for that final spot in the starting rotation. You have Robert Gasser. You have Logan Henderson, your 2 big pitching prospects, that are still rookie eligible there. You have Chad Patrick, who was dominant this year when he got an opportunity, and especially great in the postseason. You got Tobias Myers, who is your breakout guy in 2024. Slipped a little bit last year, but still very, very good quality pitcher. Plus you have your bullpen guys, your bullpen length guys, DL Hall and Aaron Ashby, who are very legitimate starting candidates, and they have been pushing for rotation spots past couple of years, but injuries and spring training have kind of set them back and put them into bullpen roles for the past couple of seasons. So that makes it a little bit more difficult for those guys. But you got 6 legitimate starting options. Any one of those guys could legitimately earn that 5th starting spot. You can make a case for Chad Patrick. You can make a case for Tobias Myers. You can make a case for Logan Henderson. You can make a case for Robert Gasser. You can make a case for DL Hall and for Aaron Ashby to earn that spot. Hall, Ashby, and Gasser are the 3 lefties of that group. And your top 4 there of Peralta, Woodruff, Priester, and Miz, they're all right-handed. So it might behoove the Brewers to have a lefty in that group, whether that's Hall, Ashby, or Gasser. Who knows? It remains to be seen. That's all going to be figured out in spring training. They'll see what arms are healthy when they get to the end of spring training, because this past year they thought they had a whole good staple of arms, and one by one they all went down as spring training went along, and they found themselves in a heap of trouble with that group. But still, it's a very deep and talented group. You may not have a ton of star power behind the Peralta and Woodruff. I mean, Jacob Mizorowski has a ton of prospect shine. We'll see how he does in his second season in the major leagues. But still, it's a very talented group, and the Brewers are deep in options at this point in that starting rotation. Plus, you also have Carlos Rodriguez hanging around as well. They added Coleman Crow to the 40-man roster. So you still have some other options as well, a little bit deeper on the depth chart. But I'm not expecting Rodriguez or Coleman Crow to be battling for a rotation job coming out of spring training next year. I expect it to be those 6 guys that are going to be competing for that 5th and final spot. And the others, I mean, they could earn bullpen spots. Some of them will be sent back down to AAA just to kind of basically bide their time. I mean, it's an incredibly deep group that the Brewers have that they are going to want to get innings for. And maybe that also could contribute to a potential not Willie Peralta. Oh, my goodness. The Willie Peralta days, I can't believe that's still on my mind. But Freddie Peralta could lead to a potential Freddie Peralta trade just to open up a spot there in that rotation. It's a very real possibility. So we'll continue to follow that as the offseason goes along here. But there are some other possibilities in this offseason as well that the Brewers need to consider that they're going to be looking at. And one of them coming up is a non-tender deadline here on Friday. That's coming up. And you look at this group of arbitration-eligible players and who could be non-tender candidates. The one that sticks out to me is Jake Bauers. I think he's the most likely of the group to be non-tendered by the Brewers. He's projected to earn $2 million in arbitration, which really isn't much. Jake Bauers is going to be your backup first baseman, essentially. He can play some left field and potentially some right field in a real pinch if you need it. But he's your backup first base, left fielder type guy. Can bring some pop, can bring some decent at-bats at the plate. The Brewers do like him and what he's been able to provide the last couple of years. Obviously, he had the memorable moment in Game 3 of the 2024 Wild Card Series. But Jake Bauers is someone who very easily could find himself non-tendered. It happened, even the year before. He was non-tendered. He was left off the 40-man roster. The Brewers signed him back to a minor league deal, brought him into spring training, and he ultimately earned the big league job. Even though he was a non-tender, even though he was a non-roster invite to spring training, he ultimately earned a big league job and stuck around for the entire season. So Bauers is someone that they could keep. He's also someone that they could easily non-tender on Friday, and then maybe look to re-sign on another minor league deal. Pat Murphy seems to like him and what he brings to the team. So Jake Bauers. He could stick around, but I think he's your most likely non-tender candidate. You have your starting first baseman in Andrew Vaughn, and Vaughn and Bauers can make a good right-left combo. there at that first base position if they want to do a platoon. Have that backup option. That's certainly a direction that they could go. So I would not be totally surprised if the Brewers non-tender Jake Bauers on Friday, but I also wouldn't be surprised either if they keep him. And they just simply tender him, maybe sign him to a deal that's slightly under that projection of $2 million. I think a deal is possible there, just to keep him back on the roster heading into next season. Provide that little bit of pop off the bench, because the Brewers still do need some pop on this team. So that's one way they could be looking at it with Jake Bauers as a candidate here. But also, if they wanted to make a change, let's say they let Jake Bauers go, and they non-tender him, and they want to basically bring up some other help at first base and open up a roster spot there. One place that maybe they could look would be Paul Goldschmidt. I think he's a free agent that could profile potentially for the Brewers. Now, Pat Murphy has spoken quite highly of Paul Goldschmidt in the past. Paul Goldschmidt has had a great career as a big league hitter, just a really fantastic, talented hitter over the years, has been so good for so many years, and has killed the Brewers quite a bit. So to maybe get him on your side, to get a Brewers killer on your side is not the worst idea in the world. A potential hindrance, a potential major hindrance to Paul Goldschmidt coming to Milwaukee, though, would be the fact that he is a right-handed hitter. And Andrew Vaughn is going to be sticking around still as first baseman. There's no chance he's getting non-tendered after the season that he had and how the Brewers essentially pushed Rhys Hoskins out. Rhys Hoskins essentially got Wally pipped by Andrew Vaughn. So the fact that he did that, Vaughn is going to be sticking around. And Paul Goldschmidt is entering his age 39 season. He's been in decline the last couple of years. Had a somewhat decent season this year, but his at-bats were cut down a little bit, and Goldschmidt at this point is going to be kind of more of a part-time kind of bat. And he would probably, if you want to get his bat in there more, you'd get him some DH at-bats, which then takes away DH at-bats from Christian Yelich. And that would either put Christian Yelich into left field, which the Brewers may or may not want to do more of next year. Matt Arnold has said that they're a bit more comfortable with it next year, but we'll see if that is going to end up ultimately being the case. So Paul Goldschmidt, I think it would take a perfect scenario, a perfect storm for the Brewers to ultimately try and bring him in, but I could very easily see Pat Murphy pushing for it. He's spoken highly of Goldschmidt in the past, so the fact that he's out there. And, last year he played on a $12.5 million salary. I'm guessing his salary is going to keep on kind of coming down here as he gets towards the end of his career. It would simply be a one-year deal, and we'll see what he's able to find. But he had, some really not too terrible numbers. I mean, he hit .274 with 10 home runs this past year with the New York Yankees. And, 104 OPS plus, so still slightly above, league average. He's never had a season that's been below league average. His worst year was a 100 OPS plus, which is exactly league average in 2024, his final year with the St. Louis Cardinals. Still, some pop, just 10 homers, which is his lowest in a season since the COVID-shortened 2020 season. And prior to that, his only other year with 10 or fewer homers was 2011, his rookie season, where he only played in 48 games. So the power is starting to drop a little bit in terms of the slugging, but still he's a professional hitter who can give you some really good at bats. That even though he's at the end, maybe the Brewers give him a shot, see what he can do. But I'm also not going to be predicting or anticipating that Paul Goldschmidt is going to end up in Milwaukee. And I think a really major hindrance to this is that he's right-handed, and Andrew Vaughn is also right-handed. And so I think the Brewers would like to have that kind of a split, have a righty-lefty mix, which is where, again, you already have Jake Bauers. I mean, you could look elsewhere. There are some other left-handed first base options they could go with. Maybe they want to bring back Ernesto Martinez from the minor leagues. They've had a couple of options down there in AAA. And they got some other first basemen coming up throughout the minor league system. So, that's kind of more long-term type stuff there. We'll see if they want to go with a rookie. But if they want experience, it's hard to find anyone out there who has any more experience than Paul Goldschmidt. So just something to keep in mind. Again, I'm not expecting Paul Goldschmidt to be a Milwaukee Brewer, but that's something that Pat Murphy, if it ends up getting late into the offseason, and if Jake Bauers is still kind of, if he ultimately is let go, if he ultimately is non-tendered, Paul Goldschmidt may be a potential possibility if he's still hanging around there. So something to keep in mind as the offseason goes along. And we're still early on. There's still a lot more to happen in this MLB offseason, and we'll be with you every single step of the way, seeing what the Brewers do and breaking it down for you here every single day, Monday through Friday on Brewers Daily. And again, I'll have all my coverage as well on Twitter at dgasper24 as we kind of continue to grow this thing and just cover this team, the team with the best record in the National League this year that has a lot of great things coming ahead of them. So that'll do it for this episode, and tomorrow we'll end up talking more about these non-tender decisions as the tender deadline is coming up on Friday. So lots to talk about, lots still happening here as we barrel towards the winter meetings as well. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Brewers Daily.